Hello everyone, I'm Hikiko, and does this place look different to you? Certainly smells different. It's a lot fresher. Anyways, it's been about a year since the Silent Hill 2 remake released, and I can just hear the sound of 2 million feet backpedaling. Oh, that's right. The people who were detracting Bloober Team, calling them the worst choice ever, well, they're starting to backtrack on that opinion and give the game a chance. Some may have even enjoyed it. Well, that's pretty good to hear. Well earned, Bloober Team. I knew your day would come. But this whole cycle of reassessment is nothing new to the Silent Hill community. It just seems like it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before somebody takes a look at a controversial entry in the franchise and returns to it with fresh eyes. Is it actually a flawed masterpiece? Find out in my 2-hour video essay. There's another element to this whole thing. Why people are backtracking. It's super top secret. But I can trust you, right?
I can trust you, right? Okay, good. I knew it. I've been to the secret YouTuber meetings, and they let me in on the biggest, most craziest secret, and I just can't contain it from myself. I can trust you, right? Okay, good. I knew it. All right, ready? Here we go.
Okay, here's what I've learned. Let's say a game is coming out. Maybe it's a remake of a beloved game. Your position here is to completely shit all over it, to test this idea as publicly and loudly as possible, so everyone knows where you stand. The next step, shit all over the developer. What are they gonna do about it? They aren't allowed to fight back. You can say whatever you want, because if they do reply to you, it just makes them lose face, and then they'll potentially harm the sales of their game. So you can say whatever you want. Okay. Then you're gonna release a video just shitting on the final product. Doesn't matter the quality of it, doesn't matter how it's being received by the public, doesn't matter how much it's selling, you're gonna shit all over it, grab that bag. Now, the next step, most important step, put some space in there. Little distance, okay? You want the public consciousness to completely forget about the game for a little bit and your video, okay? Just a little space. Next up, you're gonna make another video about the game, this time taking the opposite stance. Silent Hill 2 remake. Was it really that bad? I was wrong about the Silent Hill 2 remake? Something clickbaity like that. This is important because your audience is now going to think, oh, this person over here is well-rounded. They're self-reflecting. They're looking inward and realizing that perhaps they were wrong. But here's the truth. There is no you. Only the avatar. Grab that bag. This is what we call double dipping. Why didn't I think of this? It's a brilliant strategy, and there's no downside to it. It's a shame. What I've been doing here at Hikikomori Media just isn't working out. My policy's always been to just tell you how I feel about the game the first time. Well, I guess that's the price for having integrity. Just saying what you mean without expecting anything in return. Hold on. I'm getting a call. Moshi moshi. Hi. Silent Hill F no koto desu ka? Okane? Meizei? Chikara? そうそうそうそうそう、わかりました。すぐに。 What's this? Don't worry about that. Now for my unbiased review of Silent Hill F. Yeah, can't be bought. Opening the game and you're greeted with an admirable single trigger warning this time, which is real restraint coming from Konami after the short message. Akira Yamaoka composed the game's title music, and he used the same dissonant piano sample that he used in Silent Hill Shattered Memories, thinking nobody would notice. Well, I noticed. Yamaoka also handled around half the game's soundtrack, primarily the Fog World sections. The Other World sections were composed by Kinsuke Inage, who has worked mostly on the Musou/Dynasty Warrior series. Silent Hill F was developed by a Taiwanese company called Neobards, and I'm quite familiar with their past work, having reviewed 2 of their games on the channel, Resident Evil Resistance, and now the Fully Dead Reverse. I found it quite amusing that so many people did not afford Bloober the same benefit of the doubt when it came to the Silent Hill 2 remake, but they were instantly optimistic in handing over the franchise to Neobards, who have a much worse track record when it comes to game development. They've mostly made short-lived online-only slop, and they also have a history of butchering beloved franchises. And I'm not just talking about Resident Evil. They were also responsible for Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered, which was controversial due to the team recasting series favorite Terrence Rotolo as Frank West.
You know how to use that gun?
I've never fired at a person.
You know how to use that gun?
I've never fired at a person.
And for some reason, they decided to age up Frank by giving him a Bill Murray's widow's peak. Not only that, but they toned down the violence in some areas and rewrote entire sections of dialogue to avoid touchy things like Cliff's experience in the Vietnam War, which was kinda central to the character's psychopathy.
Oh yeah, I know why. It's because you're Viet Cong.
Oh yeah, I know why. It's because you're a mole.
They also race-swapped another psychopath in an attempt to sanitize this product of its crasser roots. But I'm just happy that Review Tech found an honest job. Just imagine what they would have done if they were handed Dead Rising 3 to remaster. It looks like we're just gonna have to clean slate this whole fucking affair.
Jesus, lady, he was just hungry.
So am I, asshole!
I think you've had plenty already.
Are you calling me?
Oh shit.
I cannot characterize Neobards as an unflinching developer in the face of potential controversy or executive meddling, which is not something I ever want to say about a developer handling the Silent Hill series. Even though I had my apprehensions about this pick, I was still willing to give them a chance. Besides, they hired the fucked up mind of Higarashi's Ryukishi 07, so I know he's gonna bring with him his signature brand of shock gore and expertise in writing branching stories within the framework of time loops. We kick things off in 1960s Showa-era Japan, in the quaint mountain town of Ibisugaoka. That's right, this game does not take place in the titular town Silent Hill. Despite what's been claimed, this is not entirely a new thing in this series. Silent Hill 3 started in an unnamed town, and Heather is eventually called to Silent Hill. 4 took place in the neighboring city of Ashfield, and Henry frequently warps to Silent Hill through these portals in his bathroom. Silent Hill Homecoming starts in another neighboring town, Shepherd's Glen. But you guessed it, Alex is eventually called to Silent Hill. Now jumping way ahead in time now, Silent Hill Short Message was set in a fictional German town, and Silent Hill has now been reduced to a psychological phenomenon triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and trauma. According to modern Konami, there's no more rules. Silent Hill is just a state of mind and a series of vaguely familiar motifs. Now that Silent Hill is just a flexible pocket dimension that can be manifested anywhere at any time for any reason, anything can be Silent Hill now. This is Silent Hill now, and this is Silent Hill now, And this is Silent Hill now? What the hell? That's right. This is Silent Hill now. Welcome to the club, buddy.
Looks like we're being welcomed. Zach, I'll let you handle the meet and greet.
This is definitely not Silent Hill. Ah, what the hell? Why not? Resident Evil is Silent Hill now. Everyone's invited to the party. Our protagonist here is Hinako, a young woman growing up in an abusive household, who one day decides to leave home for the prospect of a better life. She carries with her the anger of being forced to conform to her gender role by those closest to her.
ひなこって、シュウ君と話すときは男の子みたいな喋り方だよね。
And harbors a deep resentment towards her spineless, subservient mother, who never stood up to her drunk father. She makes it clear she never wants to end up like her parents. She questions the motivations of those around her, finding out the cold hard truth that almost everyone in her life either secretly resents her or is manipulating her out of their own self-interests. Hinako grapples with the prospect of having to enter into an arranged marriage to pay off her family's debt. Now, Hinako's tale of womanhood isn't exactly a unique story, but perhaps that notion alone should scare you. Sure, we've heard it all before, but have we heard it using flowers as a motif for the protagonist's inner trauma expressed outwardly? Yeah, we have heard that one before. Oh, that's right. In the exact same series last year. Well, who's gonna know? Who pays attention to this shit anyway? Oh, right. Another side of Hinako awakens in the shrine-adorned plane known simply as the Otherworld. Guided by a strange man in a fox mask, this Hinako must endure trials of body, mind, and soul in order to gain an ancient power. Depending on the choices made by the player, she will either perform the holy ceremony to carry forth the legacy of a fox god worshipping clan, or reject destiny, choosing to forge her own path in life. That's pretty much the gist of it. The tagline for Silent Hill F is finding beauty in terror. This approach to contrasting beautiful environments against horrifying elements is a difficult balance to maintain. It can be done, but you truly need to amplify the tension of the terror aspect to counter the calming effect of the beauty side. A recent example of contrasting beauty and terror elements done well was Alex Garland's Annihilation, an inexplicable phenomenon referred to as the Shimmer appears on Earth after a meteor crash. The Shimmer is essentially a large iridescent bubble that surrounds the crash site. A team of soldiers enters the Shimmer to investigate, but only one soldier returns, as a shell of his former self.
I don't feel very well.
A second expedition of soldiers and scientists is sent on a mission to explore the Shimmer to learn what had happened to the first expedition. Inside the Shimmer, they discover beautiful landscapes of mutated flora and fauna never seen before. However, the wildlife has also begun to mutate into terrifying chimeras. The team comes to learn that the Shimmer is expanding, which will eventually corrupt the entire world in its wake. The best part about Annihilation is that the film is careful not to over-explain all of its most disturbing aspects. It leaves the audience stunned by horrifying moments and lingering questions by the end. It's a supernatural horror that leaves an unforgettable impression on you. I wish I could say the same thing was true about Silent Hill F, but the writers couldn't resist explaining away the mystery at every juncture. I will give the team some credit. Their environmental artistry is second to none. I loved the gradual corruption of Abisugaoka being overtaken by the flower powers, and the slow degradation of Hinako's appearance and mental state as the game progresses. It's also quite refreshing that they did not just lean into the rust and decay aesthetic like some of the Western design Silent Hill games did. Neobards had a vision, and they stuck to it. The sparse moments where the developers give you time to rest and take in the craftsmanship of the parallel dimensions were the closest they came to capturing the Silent Hill experience. Like when they captured the Rorschach chase sequences from Silent Hill Shattered Memories that everyone hated. I don't ever want to hear anyone complain about Shattered Memories again. If you hated those chase sequences there, then you gotta hate them here too. It's only fair. Hey, you know what would make this confrontation with the fog demon even scarier? If we made Hinako run at the camera like Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, that's the ticket.
What have I got?
What really disappointed me is that for an entry in a landmark psychological horror series, they don't really play around with the psychological aspect of horror. If we take a look back at Silent Hill 2's story, it masterfully presents a series of impactful scenes that play with your mind and make you think about the experience long after you put down the game. Sometimes you're just watching abstract human-like figures contorting their bodies in disturbing ways, which causes you to fill in the blank with your own interpretation of what's going on before you. This shit traumatized me as a child, but here I am many years later, making a video about it. Mission accomplished. There are subtle cues in the way that the characters act and speak, which brings forth their inner trauma to the surface in ways that you might not pick up on until your second or third playthrough. Silent Hill 2 also had the good sense to let up on the drama at times by presenting some comedic moments to give the players a broad spectrum of emotions. Sometimes it's necessary to ease up on the suffering by dropping in a silly pizza scene.
So what'd you do? Robbery? Murder?
Nah, nothing like that.
Huh, you're just a gutless fatso.
What'd you have to say that for?
You gotta let the players guard down from time to time if you really want to strike at their emotional core. Silent Hill F needed its own pizza scene, that much I can tell you.
Forget you.
Outside of the pre-order exclusive Robbie the Rabbit costume, Hinako is not humorous in the slightest. She has two modes: sociopathically stoic or unbridled rage. When they do give her a somber moment to explore, it's not long before she quickly reverts back to one of her two modes. Not to completely dismiss all the merits of her character, because there are some things that Neobards got right here. They brought back the inner thoughts flavor text, where occasionally Hinako will interact with the environment and give a brief statement in text. This is unspoken dialogue. I miss this sort of character building in the Silent Hill 2 remake. This text is often what made characters like Heather Mason so relatable. You were only given a couple of sentences here or there, minor bits about how she was processing her predicament, without the need for constant verbal diarrhea exposition. There's a balance to this, and I want to stress it was a brief bit of text, not a long, drawn-out journal entry with a damn index, just passing thoughts in the moment that might seem inconsequential at first, but it provides a lot of deep complexity without the verbosity. I always prefer the gradual breadcrumbs of inner thoughts approach to character development from the original Silent Hill games, rather than the insistent need to fill the silence found in Short Message and Silent Hill F. If only Neobard showed some restraint in this area, we'd have another masterpiece on our hands. The critical reception of Silent Hill F has been rather polarizing, to say the least. Some people are calling it the worst entry in the Silent Hill franchise. Then I had a friend on the flip side come to me and say, "Hey, Hikiko, you gotta try this. This is now my favorite entry in the Silent Hill franchise." It's like these gut reactions get me all confused. Like, I'm skeptical because of some sort of recency bias element at play. So I ignored all the haters, I ignored all the praisers, and I decided to just play the game for myself. What a novel concept. So that's exactly what I did. I played through the game multiple times, cleared it, and by the end, I was left scratching my head, questioning my friend. Like, did we play the same game? So I caught up with my friend and I was like, hey, I just finished the game, so what did you like about it? My friend just hit me back with some of the most vague bullshit I've ever heard. The aesthetic was cool, I guess. It vibed with me on a subliminal level. It was vag-coded in the best ways. Cool. My mistake. I expected there to be a conversation at the end of this road. Turns out it was just a chasm to another bottomless abyss. Then I started to suspect that my friend didn't even play the game. Perhaps they sourced all their opinions from the internet and experienced the whole thing vicariously, like a true Silent Hill fan do. My mistake. We're in a post-plaything society, Hikiko. What were you thinking? This was my exact experience with Higurashi, by the way. Most modern media critique on YouTube eventually devolves into some form of culture war grift, where lines are drawn and you're expected to pick a side. To me, it's all performative pearl clutching over nothing. Silent Hill F is one of the most milquetoast tales of womanhood I've ever encountered. It's so careful not to push any boundaries, a la the tragic tale of Angela Roscoe. The various depictions of female oppression expressed within the game are heavy-handed and tired at best, albeit they never get this bad. I don't believe this was just another trite story whose themes can be reduced down to fuck men propaganda. Because all the women in Hinako's life are equally backstabbing pieces of shit. Not to mention, there's an additional element of godlike figures that are meddling in her affairs. Hey, wait a second. Deja vu. The most challenging themes this surrealist series has ever seen, like growing up is hard for a woman. I don't want to become my parents. I just wish a rich, handsome, furry guy would spirit me away from this place. Well, don't we all? Is it really worth getting fake butt hurt on the internet for AdSense money over? No, and we'll leave it at that. Full disclosure, Konami just sent me a press kit and it is filled with Japanese snacks. I got the big katsu. They sent me a whole bunch of strawberry Kit Kats. There's a Ramune in here I already drank. Oh boy, they're gonna get a high score, that much I can tell you. And then there's something else in this box. What the hell is this? Oh, I know what this is. There comes a moment in this industry where you're given a choice to put on the mask. Some would call it a ritual of sorts, but my coping mechanisms tell me that it's a great opportunity that everyone takes if they want to be successful in this industry. There's no shame in it. Ah, there we go. Look, I know what you must be thinking right now, but rest assured, this mask will not influence my opinion on Silent Hill F. And besides, it was a mutual understanding. I can take it off anytime I want. And now back to my unbiased review of Silent Hill F, produced by Konami in 2025. One of the greatest survival horror games ever made. Anyone who disagrees is a shill dog. People are calling Silent Hill F a much-needed breath of fresh air for the Silent Hill series, and I couldn't agree more. It feels somewhat familiar and missing the mark entirely at the same time, but that's a good thing. I was so impressed by all the things I recognized from past Silent Hill games, such as the fog, the rusty pipe weapon, parallel worlds, a pyramid head clone but this time covered in flowers, again. And they even crammed in a nod to the creepy Eileen room from Silent Hill 4. This is the kind of game you might mistake for a Silent Hill game, but if you look closely at the details of its face, you'll discover that there's something else hiding inside. Now, when I think of a timeless piece of art that defies the limitations of its medium, I think about how Silent Hill F subverts those expectations by gamifying it all to an annoying degree, rebelling against gaming trends by completely conforming to them. What I loved most is how they designed it in such a way where you are never left alone long enough to truly feel lost in the fog. What should I do next? Oh, I guess I could just look at the top left corner of the screen for the objective. Ah yes, collect 3 out of 3 items. A nice, round, video gamey number. I'm reminded of Neobards' Resident Evil Resistance. What a callback. Collect 3 items to open the exit, get grabbed by enemies, proceed to the exit. Next mission, collect 3 more things, get grabbed by enemies, proceed to the exit. They truly do march to the beat of their own drum. Perhaps Neobards started off trying to make a slower paced atmospheric horror, only to discover that modern players were getting lost during focus testing. Maybe they found that if these players weren't constantly being fed objectives, engaging in combat, or picking up random snacks off the ground, they would get lost and bored. Neobards smartly recognized that if they slowed down the pace, they could risk the player being left alone with their thoughts, which might lead them to contemplate the environment and what they should do next within it. And you can't risk that in 2025. I'm sorry, were you expecting Silent Hill? Too bad. You're getting Noisy Mountain. Hikiko is objectively the strongest fighter out of all the Silent Hill protagonists. Neobards tried to give a logical explanation as to why this teenage girl is so proficient at melee combat. It's all because Hikiko was involved in a sports club at school. That's it. There's this implicit thing called suspension of disbelief that's afforded to video game protagonists when it comes to performing superhuman feats. Not everything needs to be explained. In the original Silent Hill, Harry Mason is an author who just so happens to be capable of slaying hundreds of demons. No further explanation necessary. If you were to add a full-on backstory about how, in the past, Harry was a plumber's apprentice who warded off some thugs one day with a pipe he pulled from the job site, well, that backstory doesn't make the premise of him killing a legion of supernatural entities any more legitimate. It's better if you just stick with the whole Hikiko is the chosen one premise and leave it at that.
I'm not here to fight.
Stop!
And I'm not fooling around. Give me back my daughter. I don't know who you are or what you're trying to do, and I don't care.
Now, some outlets out there praising this new sense of empowerment as a fresh twist for the franchise, but it's really not all that new. Other developers had tried to pivot the survival horror series into a more action-focused direction as far back as Silent Hill Origins, when Climax introduced aspects like enemy grabs, quick-time event button mashing, and a large assortment of breakable melee weapons. It's sort of an evolution of Silent Hill 4's active inventory system. Now, in the early stages of Origins development, the game was designed to copy the over-the-shoulder third-person shooting format made famous by Resident Evil 4. But after some feedback, they went with more of a traditional semi-fixed perspective and aiming more in line with the original Silent Hill games. If we take a look at the black sheep of the Silent Hill series, Homecoming, it took the action combat a step further by making protagonist Alex Shepard more adept at combat than any other protagonist at the time. They gave him a series of melee weapon combos, charge attacks, dodging and rolling, plus the aforementioned over-the-shoulder aiming, quick-time events, lavish finishing moves, and they gave the enemies battle damage from combat. Silent Hill fans over the years viewed Homecoming as missing the point entirely by making the protagonist too powerful, thus removing tension from enemy encounters and compromising the overall survival horror nature of the series. The player feedback and reaction to Homecoming caused Vatra, the developers of Silent Hill Downpour, to go back to the drawing board when it came to developing its protagonist.
There was also a portion of the fans out there that felt that he was too empowered, he was just a little bit too much of a badass, and then you lost the feeling of being vulnerable, because that's what survival horror is about. It's about being disempowered and being preyed upon, really.
Now, Devin Shatsky was correct in his assessment of disempowerment, but his team had also failed to achieve disempowerment within Downpour's protagonist Murphy Pendleton. The problem here was twofold. One, Murphy could shoot every gun in the game with 100% accuracy in blind fire mode. And two, they implemented their own breakable melee weapon system in Downpour, which in practice does add some tension to the monster encounters. However, there was a major oversight in this department as well. Murphy could also throw melee weapons and hit enemies with 100% accuracy. The weapons can then be picked up off the ground again and thrown at enemies multiple times. I beat the hardest boss on the highest difficulty by just spamming him with random objects off the ground. You know, on second thought, I take back what I said about Hikiko. Murphy may actually be the most overpowered Silent Hill protagonist. You want to know what I don't understand? For the past 20 years, the so-called Silent Hill community trashed all over Silent Hill Homecoming because it dared to be more action-centric than previous entries. People said that the action gameplay just missed the survival horror roots of the predecessors. Yet, Silent Hill 2 Remake almost wholesale took the battle engine from Homecoming. Silent Hill F just is another Souls game with Silent Hill clothing, yet no one's criticizing it on that basis. What the hell's going on here? Silent Hill Homecoming, you weren't wrong, you were just early. Silent Hill F is a breath of fresh air in the Silent Hill series. Modern gamers want a modern engine. They want modern combat choices. They don't want slow-paced survival elements. What some might consider tired action gameplay elements, others are lining up to taste the slap. What was I saying again? Hinako's adeptness at combat and first aid lessens the scariness of the monsters she encounters. At no point in the story did I dread the possibility of death, because you almost always have a fully stocked supply of restorative items at the ready, even on the hardest difficulty. You can take up to 8 different types of items you find off the ground and assign them to hotkeys and use them at a moment's notice. If that didn't make things easy enough, Hikiko can now lock on to enemies, read attack cues, dodge out of the way, slow down time, focus charge attack, parry enemy attacks, block attacks. Oh, and then later on she can turn into an altered beast form after filling up a rage meter. You now have 3 meters to keep track of, 4 if you count the rage meter. Top meter is represented by flowers, that's the sanity gauge. And no, the game doesn't pull any psychological tricks on you, a la Eternal Darkness when it's drained, although it would have been a nice touch. Hinako's sanity allows her to slow down time, where she can read enemy attacks to dodge or counter, or charge up and pull off a powerful attack. She has this health bar in red, but the developers also insisted on cramming in a bloody vignette when she's low on health that you can't turn off. Look guys, I can already tell she's injured based on the bar and her slumped over stance. I think that's sufficient enough information. When she's low on health or her weapon is about to break, Hikiko will verbally remind the player to do something about it. I know this doesn't seem like a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but all this hand-holding feels patronizing. People dogged all over Bloober Team way before their game even came out, but at least they had the good sense to allow players to fine-tune their own experience and turn some of this shit off. You cannot do that in Silent Hill F. I will give Neobards some credit here. At least they don't even bother to force you to participate in the charade known as the QTE button prompts when you get grabbed by an enemy. You just kind of have to sit there and let this whole scene play out, taking the health penalty. But I am kind of mad that they put in some bullshit sneak attacks that give you 0 time to react before you're grabbed. Look at this. How could I have possibly dodged that? Then she has a stamina bar in green, which determines how many attacks she can pull off in sequence or how much energy she has to run away. Hikiko can carry up to 3 different melee weapons at a time, 4 if you're counting the sword. They've implemented a durability gauge that keeps you in a constant state of breaking, repairing, or swapping out weapons on the fly. Scratch that, there's actually 5 meters to keep track of. The weapons vary in strength and speed, and some of them come with their own special charge attacks. Special note, these weapons are only breakable in the fog world. Whenever you're in the other world, you're given a set of unbreakable weapons. And I believe they did this because otherwise you'd get soft lock when you couldn't defeat some of the enemies you're forced to fight. The weapons aspect becomes entirely moot later on when Hikiko gets her fox arm, which becomes the default weapon for all the other world encounters in the latter half of the game. In addition to all this, Hikiko is then given some equipable accessories known as omamoris. These give Hikiko additional perks like the ability to auto-dodge or auto-counterattack, or they can do things like increase your stats in some way. You start off with only 3 slots to equip them, but you can expand these slots to a total of 5 in the New Game Plus. I think the omamoris make things more interesting to the overall game balance. It helps you adjust Hikiko to your personal preference when it comes to what sort of experience you want. If you want a real challenge, you don't have to equip any of them. Or if you're like me and you're sick and tired of the combat system in your 2nd or 3rd playthrough, you can equip up to 5 of them and make Hikiko OP, being able to decimate all the enemies in just a few strikes. Coming up with new combinations to equip was honestly the most enjoyable aspect of this whole affair for me. I just wish you could save certain sets of omamori combinations so I could have one for the other world and one for the fog world. In addition to all of that, Silent Hill F also has a faith-based leveling system not too dissimilar to the spirit points you collect in the Fatal Frame series. Hikiko can trade some of the items she finds on the ground for faith points at the shrines. These points can be used to upgrade her stats, draw a random omamori, or if you're playing on a higher difficulty, she can use these points to restore some of her sanity gauge. The faith system does encourage you not to just blow through all of your restorative items because you'll want to save them up and cash them in at the shrines. Even though the game is quite easy for anyone who's played a modern action title from the past decade, I still believe it would have benefited from some form of long-range attack. Doesn't necessarily have to be a gun or a bow and arrow, but something high risk, high reward. It would have been nice to have the ability to throw some of these weapons at enemies as a means to take out some of the more annoying encounters at the expense of one melee weapon. These puking demons that grow deadly flowers in their perimeter are so tedious to deal with. If they grow flowers, you have to either wait it out or take some damage to attack them. And they're mostly placed in pathways that you need to cross without any way to dodge them. Some maps in the game are better suited for combat than others. This became apparent in the last leg of the game, where they copy-pasted 3 versions of Hikiko's house. There will be instances where they've placed an enemy near a door frame or a wall. When you're fighting them, Hikiko will hit the wall mid-combat, cancel the combo, and leave her wide open for attack. I only mention this because it happened to me so frequently that it became annoying. In interviews, Konami has been adamantly trying to disassociate the Dark Souls comparison.
One thing we would like to make clear is that we've been hearing the term Souls-like getting thrown around, but this game is not a Souls-like.
Too bad. It's a Souls clone. Let's call a rusty pipe a rusty pipe and just move on with our lives. From my perspective, there's almost no benefit to engaging with the enemies beyond progressing to the next area alive, which on its face would be alright if you were just making a pure survival horror game, but we have a full-on leveling system and equipable accessories. It's an RPG. I rarely found myself changing up my strategy of run away whenever possible because I found the frequency of the enemy encounters annoying more so than difficult or scary. I just wanted to continue on exploring, but there are so many choke points laid throughout Silent Hill F, especially in the latter half of the game where Hikiko needs to clear enemies in the area before the path forward opens up. This is the kind of game format I would come to expect from the Devil May Cry series, with all the enemy waves, mystical barriers, and saving your devil trigger up for the right moment, not so much a Silent Hill game. I still don't understand who this combat is supposed to appeal to. If you're coming off the Soul series, well, you've clearly played a better action RPG, and this probably feels like a downgrade from what you're used to. Or if you're coming into this fresh off the original Silent Hill series, where the combat system doesn't expect all that much from the player, you're probably not interested in engaging in all this combat, and it's just getting in the way of all the atmosphere and exploring the mystery. I fall more into the latter camp. The game does get a tad more enjoyable in the subsequent playthroughs in New Game Plus. Hinako is much stronger, which makes clearing the combat sections go by faster, so you can get back to exploring. There are also several new cutscenes, dialogue, and some hidden boss fights to discover on the multiple playthroughs. But really, nothing too substantial happens until you reach the end of the game.
I'm not quite sure. I try to make sense of it, but then my mind goes blank.
I think I've been rather consistent in my plea for the need for subtle storytelling in this particular series. The less you explain about your world, the more the player's mind wanders. Then they're gonna try and seek out the answers for themselves or engage with other members of the community. This simple to follow format is the reason why the original 4 Silent Hill games and PT are still being discussed many years later. They live on to this very day, not because they ended with a period, but with a question mark. Silent Hill F is too explanatory for its own good. Every few steps you take, you get an entry in Hinako's diary, often with full-on lore explanation and colorful illustrations. The more I know about these monsters, the less scary they become in my mind. Hey, did you know these 2 monsters represent Hinako's parents? Hold up, watch this cutscene play out where her parents explicitly morph into said monsters. And then you can read this fully illustrated diary entry that Hinako wrote for you, so there's no room for speculation or discussion. The monster that my father turned into, it acts the same way he did when he let his anger get the best of him. It was only the curse of fatherhood that made my dad appear human. This form, his true form, must have been hidden underneath all along. Ryukishi 07 really cooked with this one. Thanks, but I'm no longer a baby bird. You don't need to regurgitate information the player has already witnessed in a lazy attempt to make a psychological horror more accessible to modern audiences. But upon a closer look, the story is only accessible in the sense that you can read. That in itself is gatekeeping the illiterate, and therefore shameful. For shame, Neobards! Scratch that. Modern gamers fear surrealist elements and need every plot point fed to them. By explaining everything ad nauseum, Neobards removed any sort of uncomfortable feelings from a survival horror game. The last thing we want is for paying customers to feel stupid. When you start dishing out all the major themes in the most banal, stereotypical surface-level manner, you risk patronizing the player's intelligence, time, and you outright kill future discussions. Now, I'm not saying every Silent Hill has to hold back information or let the environment handle the bulk of the storytelling to be compelling, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to try. F didn't leave me with much to contemplate by the end, and I consider that to be a major indictment on this entry. Hey everyone, I think I know what the F stands for. Forgettable. You guys ever get the feeling that you're obligated to like a game because it has a positive social message attached to it, and the graphics are gorgeous, and you're secretly being paid under the table to mention those two things. But deep down, when you let the mask slip, you realize it's just a hollow facsimile of a Silent Hill game, and you don't actually like it? Yeah, me neither. Oh, I'm getting a text message here. It's from our sponsors, and they've dropped the sponsorship. Well, guess I won't be needing this anymore. Whew. Whew. That was sweaty. Look, no matter what I've said in this video, I'm just happy that we have a brand new survival horror game with no gacha component tied to it, and it's doing relatively well in the marketplace, selling over 1 million copies on the first day. That's impressive stuff. You should be proud, Neobards. Congratulations. And there's another aspect where I'm just excited to be talking about Silent Hill again. It's been so long, and we have new games that we can dissect and discuss, and frankly, isn't that what it's all about at the end of the day? So, my final thoughts. On its own, as an independent game separate from Silent Hill, I give Silent Hill F a 7 out of 10. But as a Silent Hill game belonging to the franchise compared against all the other ones, I give it a 5 out of 10. It's time to start gatekeeping this shit again. Oh my god. This burning sensation. What is it? It's gonna pass, right? Oh, okay. We're good. It's passing.